Hello, everyone.
I hope you are doing well.
And I wish goodness and health for all viewers. Today, we are exploring one of the most fascinating chapters of human civilization, the Akkadian Empire. It is often called the world's first true empire, emerging in Mesopotamia more than 4,000 years ago. The Akkadian Empire takes its name from the city of Akkad, a capital whose exact location still remains lost to history. What makes this story remarkable is how small city-states scattered across Mesopotamia were united under a single rule for the very first time in recorded history. This transformation did not happen overnight. Before Akkad's rise, the region was dominated by the Sumerians. Their cities, Uruk, Lagash and others, were centers of writing, trade and religion. But they often fought against each other, weakening themselves through endless rivalries. Into this world stepped a figure named Sargon of Akkad. He rose from obscurity.
Legends even say he was once a cupbearer.
To become the conqueror who unified Mesopotamia. Around 2334 BCE, Sargon launched campaigns that gradually brought Sumerian cities under his control. His victories created a centralized authority that stretched far beyond local kingships. The Akkadian Empire became a melting pot
of Sumerian traditions and Akkadian innovations.
The Akkadians adopted the Sumerian cuneiform script, but they reshaped it to record their own Semitic Akkadian language, a crucial step in world history because it became one of the earliest administrative languages. Their empire extended from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean Sea, covering a scale of power never seen before in the ancient world. This meant, for the first time, trade networks, laws and armies were organized under one strong centralized system. Before we move to our today, I want to say that this channel is user-friendly, no offensive content,
no misinformation.
We explain things with respect, curiosity and authenticity. The Akkadian period also set new standards in governance. Sargon appointed trusted officials,
often his family members,
to oversee regions far away from Akkad. This reduced the independence of local rulers and made sure loyalty stayed with the empire. Religious life was equally transformed. The Akkadian kings declared themselves chosen by the gods, linking divine approval with imperial expansion. This connection between religion and politics influenced later Mesopotamian empires for centuries. The greatness of the Akkadian Empire was not only built on battles and conquests, but also on remarkable achievements that shaped the future of civilization. One of their most striking contributions was in the field of art and sculpture. The Akkadians introduced a style of realistic portraiture that had not been seen before. The famous bronze head of an Akkadian ruler, often identified as Sargon himself, shows an extraordinary level of detail, with carefully modeled facial features, braided beard and sharp eyes that convey both authority and humanity. This was more than decoration. It was political symbolism. For the first time, rulers used lifelike art to project their image of power across the empire. The Akkadians also advanced the use of monumental steles. The stele of Naram-Sin, Sargon's grandson, depicts the king as larger than his soldiers marching up a mountain in victory. This visual language of power, placing rulers at the center of divine favor, influenced imperial art in Mesopotamia, Persia, and even later Mediterranean cultures. Another remarkable aspect was the spread of Akkadian language. For centuries after their empire collapsed, Akkadian remained the dominant tongue for diplomacy, trade, and administration in the Near East. Clay tablets written in Akkadian have been discovered as far as Egypt and Anatolia, proving how far their cultural reach extended. The empire also expanded trade networks. Goods flowed from the Indus Valley, bringing exotic materials like carnelian and ivory, while timber and silver arrived from Anatolia and Lebanon. The Persian Gulf linked Mesopotamia to Dilmun, a hub believed to be in today's Bahrain. Through Akkadian power, Mesopotamia was no longer just a land of farmers and priests, It became the crossroads of the ancient world. Administration was another key achievement. Sargon and his successors created a system of governors who were directly responsible to the king. They collected taxes, recruited soldiers, and ensured order in distant provinces. This model of centralized bureaucracy was later echoed by the Assyrians and Babylonians. At the same time, ordinary life under the Akkadians was not just about empire and rulers. Farmers cultivated barley and dates, using irrigation canals that stretched for miles. Craftsmen produced jewelry,
Stone carvings,
and everyday pottery that has been found in ancient settlements across Mesopotamia. Priests continued their role in temples, preserving Sumerian myths while adapting them into Akkadian versions, an important step in the preservation of the Epic of Gilgamesh, a story that still survives today. The Akkadians also confronted challenges. Their expansion meant constant military campaigns, which placed heavy strain on both the economy and the people. Maintaining loyalty in conquered lands was never easy. Still, for nearly 2 centuries, the empire endured, leaving a blueprint of empire building that later civilizations followed. No empire, however powerful, can escape the challenges of time. The Akkadian Empire, after nearly 2 centuries of dominance, began to face pressures that would ultimately
lead to its downfall.
One of the most fascinating discoveries about their decline comes from archaeology and climate science. Evidence suggests that around 2200 BCE, the region suffered a severe drought. Rainfall decreased, rivers shrank, and fertile fields turned to dust. This environmental shift, sometimes called the 4.2 kilo-year event, was not limited to Mesopotamia. It affected civilizations as far away as Egypt and the Indus Valley. For the Akkadians, who depended heavily on irrigation farming, the result was devastating. Crops failed, food shortages spread, and cities that once thrived
struggled to feed their populations.
The empire's unity began to weaken under the weight of hunger and unrest. Texts from that time, like the Curse of Akkad, describe famine, chaos, and rebellion. While partly poetic, they reflect real struggles. The once great empire, which had expanded so far, found it increasingly hard to control distant provinces. At the same time, internal divisions grew. Successors of Sargon
lacked the same charisma and strength.
Although his grandson Naram-Sin was a formidable ruler, his reign also marked turning points. He declared himself a god-king, a bold move that may have angered traditional elites and challenged old religious traditions. External enemies also pressed in. The Gutians, a group from the Zagros Mountains, took advantage of the empire's weakness. They raided Mesopotamian cities, disrupting trade and undermining stability. For years, chroniclers described them as an ungovernable people who destabilized the land. By around 2150 BCE, the empire that once stretched from the Gulf to the Mediterranean was breaking apart. City-states regained independence, and Akkad itself faded from prominence. Strikingly, the exact site of Akkad's capital
has never been identified,
making it one of archaeology's great mysteries. Yet even in decline, the Akkadians left a powerful legacy. Their administrative systems, their use of Akkadian as a lingua franca, and their artistic innovations continued to shape Mesopotamia for centuries. Later powers, Babylonians and Assyrians, looked back to Akkad as the model of empire. Even their myths and stories were preserved and retold, ensuring that the memory of their civilization never truly disappeared. The fall of the Akkadian Empire reminds us of a timeless lesson. Civilizations rise not only through conquest, but must also adapt to nature,
resources,
and the delicate balance of human society. Though the Akkadian Empire collapsed, its spirit continued to echo through history. Its rulers created the foundation of empire, centralized government, a shared language of administration, and a vision of kingship tied to divine favor. These ideas did not vanish. They were absorbed, reshaped, and carried forward by later civilizations. The Babylonians inherited Akkadian traditions. Hammurabi's famous Code of Laws, centuries later, was written in Akkadian language that had become the common script of power. The Assyrians, too, look back at Sargon and Naram-Sin as heroic ancestors, using their legacy to justify conquests that reached even farther across the Near East. Beyond politics, the Akkadians influenced literature. The Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the earliest masterpieces of human storytelling, survives largely thanks to Akkadian scribes, who copied and preserved it. Without them, this tale of friendship, mortality, and the search for meaning might have been lost forever. In art, the visual language of kings towering over enemies and rulers claiming divine support remained a template for centuries. Even in distant cultures, the idea of the king as both warrior and protector has echoes that trace back to Akkad. Their innovations in administration and trade also laid early foundations for the interconnected ancient world. Clay tablets, seals, and archives show how contracts, rations, and diplomacy were recorded with precision. It was an empire that in many ways set humanity on the path of complex states that we recognize today. And yet their capital city, Akkad, remains lost. Despite decades of excavations, archaeologists have never uncovered its ruins. It is as if the birthplace of the first empire is still waiting to be rediscovered, hidden beneath layers of Mesopotamian soil. This mystery adds a final layer of fascination to their story. All the information we provide comes from verified historical sources, including books, records, and archaeology. Some major references include Ancient Near Eastern History and Culture by William H. Steebing, Jr., archaeological findings published in the Journal of Near Eastern Studies, and research on climate change and the 4.2 kilo-year event from studies in the journal Science. Cuneiform archives from Ebla, Mari, and also preserve traces of Akkadian influence. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Thrones of Knowledge. And don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified on time. Suggest our next topic in the comment section to help make our journey even better.